Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Tavis Leaf Clever, and today we have the Canon of Design Quick Tips. This is where I take art and quickly analyze it for composition and design techniques. So that includes dynamic symmetry, gestalt psychology, lighting, basically anything that's worth pointing out. Feel free to comment below with any master artists that you like, and I'll see if I can get around to analyzing them. So one of the best ways you can improve your composition is by studying master painters. It doesn't matter if you're a photographer, a painter, graphic designer, sculptor, cinematographer. All these techniques apply to almost every visual art, so it's pretty cool. You know, watching these videos or reading the articles on the site is one thing, but you also have to be ready to apply the techniques that you just learned. So that's part of the growth process. If you want to grow as an artist, you need to learn and then you need to apply it. So that's the most important thing to remember. So anybody that's watching these videos with skepticism, just please stick around. And one of the best ways to start seeing how these masters use these techniques is to analyze their paintings. Analyze some master painters and you'll start to see that these techniques reoccur. If you just judge these techniques on, well, you know what, intuition is better for me, so I think I'm just going to go with my intuition. But a lot of people don't realize that intuition is built off of the experience that you've had and knowledge that you've gained. So if you haven't gained proper knowledge and you haven't gained proper experience, then your intuition isn't going to guide you very well. So I ask you just one thing before you start being too skeptical and disregarding all the content within these videos. Just sit down a couple days, start analyzing, and just start digging deep into a master painter and try and figure out, how are they doing this? Are they creating S-shaped curves, which is called an Arabesque? How are they creating unity? Why do they put things where they do? And the way you figure these things out is you have to be first introduced to the techniques, which all these videos are doing for you. And then you start to dig into the master painters and just try and see for yourself, prove it to yourself that they're using something. There's something there that you're missing, and it's not within your intuition as far as you can tell. So that's where digging deep and analyzing master paintings comes in handy, because you start to see it for yourself. You don't need me or anybody else to try and prove to you that these techniques are actually there. You just need to try and prove it to yourself if you really want to take your art seriously. If you're not taking your art seriously and you don't want to become a master painter and you don't really care about the outcome and you just want to express your emotions and your feelings and all that stuff, then do that as well. But this stuff, if you're really serious about your art and you want to learn composition, then you definitely need to start taking a look at master paintings and see how they do it. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, we might as well start out with a very complex group photo by Annie Leibovitz. I mean, why not, right? So if you're going to learn something, you might as well learn it with something complex. And you know, when I point out these design techniques, it's going to simplify it for you so you understand a little bit how she's doing this and what's going on. So first off, we want to note that this is a composite photo. If you don't believe me, that's okay, because we have lots of little evidence here. So this is actually someone caught a mistake that she made. So Reese Witherspoon, she's got 3 legs here. And then Oprah Winfrey, she has a couple hands right here. So 1 hand, 2 hand, and then 1 around the waist. So then when we look at the behind the scenes photos, we'll start to see what the stage looks like. It's kind of small. All right, here's another one. We've got a couple of different photos, how they're posing the model, what shots they're taking, what the background looks like. So they're doing all these to block light and get a nice, well-lit portrait of the models here. So the girl in the red, and then the one laying down here. So that's, you can see him right here. So as my guess, I would say that these guys are composited. That's 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots, 4 shots right here, and then these guys right here together. So that's what I would say. And if you understand dynamic symmetry, composition techniques, and you're on a big set like this, you're Annie Leibovitz, you're going to want to bang this photo out quickly and get it exactly how you want it. So this takes planning, and the planning comes from understanding these design techniques, how you want to pose these models, how they're going to unite with the other one, and we'll take a look at some of these techniques here. Just do it real quick. We know this is a composite. not only because of the mistakes that were caught and the behind the scenes shots, but also if you understand light. So in the book Canon of Design, Mastering Artistic Composition, I've got an example here that shows the inverse square law, and this shows the distance from the light source to the subject, how it's one full unit of light, and then if you take that same distance behind the subject, you're going to have only 1/4 of the light. So it's showing how the light will fall off and gradually fall off behind the subject when compared to the actual light source. So if that's confusing, we just look at this picture of Annie Leibovitz. So here's her light source, and we see how bright and blown out this guy's hair is. And then when we look at her hair is rather dark. So when we're talking about cameras capturing a proper exposure, if you're exposing for this guy with this light, then this means she's going to be quite dark. So when we look at this photo, if you want to get nice lighting on people, you want to have the source not too close but not too far away. If you get further away, like in this example here, so say you're a photographer at a wedding and you want to photograph everybody without making a composite. So what you want to do is you want to move the light source further away, and that makes the light source smaller in order to capture more people. Because if the light source is close, you're going to expose, the camera is going to expose properly for these people, but then these people behind are going to be quite dark, okay? And that's what we saw with the inverse square law. So if we're exposing for this person, and if there's people behind them, they're going to be underexposed, okay? So that's why we can move the light source further away, and that increases the distance of that light fall off, okay? Hopefully that gives you a little explanation. So here's an example of sunlight. This is a manipulated photo that I did, but just the cap part. This part on her arms, that's from the sun, and you can see how hard the light is. The sun is a huge light source, but it's so far away that makes it small, okay? So the smaller the light source, the harder the light you're going to have. So if this is close to your face, this umbrella here, it's going to be a big light source, but if you move it away, it actually gets smaller, okay? Because your face is right here, you're moving it away and it's getting smaller. So you're going to have harder light, but you're going to have more light spread out, okay? You're not going to have these people underexposed behind there. So it's a trade-off. That's why Annie Leibovitz decides to make a composite, so you can get nice lighting on all these people instead of having like flat lighting on everybody or hard lighting on everybody. You want to prove it, you take this lamp, whatever lamp is sitting around your house. This is the one that's, you know, in my living room.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, would you look at that? Would you look at that?
Take any lamp, you put your hand, put your hand about 6 inches away from the light source, and then you take your other hand and put it about 6 inches away from this hand. So you'll notice that this one's brighter, and then this one is about 1/4 as bright as this.
Yeah, statue. Ralphie!
So now that we got that out of the way, let's take a look at some design techniques real quick, and then we'll be done. So one thing we can do if we want to create unity, say we're planning up a big group photo and we want to create unity and movement, one thing that helps us create unity is the heads of each subject. And we can pretend it's like a dot-to-dot image. So what we want to do is, let's just fill in their heads here, and we're going to see how Annie might have pre-planned all this so she could shoot them in the proper pose, and then they can composite it later and have an image full of unity and movement. So let's do that, and then we're going to fill this, and we can see that there's a little bit of movement here. So just point this out. This is like it's kind of circling around here to this one, and we've got a line kind of going this way, right? So that's the heads. That's just unity created just from the heads, okay? This is a gestalt psychology technique called the law of continuity, and it's just like dot-to-dot image works. It creates edge-to-edge relationships, unity, movement, all that stuff. So that was the heads. Now let's do the limbs. So what else also helps direct movement is the limbs. So we're just going to mark these up. Also, like, see how this outfit is creating contrast in a direction. This guy, this dress, this guy's arm, His arm, her arm. Just mark them all up. This one's going this way. This is all one line of contrast there, so mark it up there. Her arm this way. Oprah. This guy's arm. Legs do this. Any limb, any of the model's limbs can be used to direct attention or create unity, or what we're going to see next is called a gamut, which is repeating diagonals. So let's look at this on the black and we'll see how we're getting repeating diagonals. And this is just by taking the limbs of each model and simplifying it so we can see just the shapes that they're creating. So this is what the subconscious will see, you know, just as they look at the image, we'll see like something's there. We can't really point it out, but it looks like an awesome photo, right? Something's there, and it's usually a hidden technique like gamut or these uniting heads there. But we can see that these are repeating, these are repeating. It's almost the same exact diagonal here, which is pretty hard to do unless you plan it. So this one's repeating that, and we'll go back to that, but I want to point out some arabesques. Arabesques are adhering to the law of continuity as well, and what they do is just these edges here, this comes down. Usually the female form in a contrapposto pose will create a nice S curve, but we also have to look at the edges. Her arm coming this way. Okay, so start up, we can go right here. See the side of her face comes down her dress, and then we can come down here. Reese Witherspoon actually comes from his shoulder, the edge of her hair, down there, down the dress, and then down the leg. So that's an arabesque. This arm's curling around. Where is it going to go? It's just going to go back up to here. Okay, this one comes down. Okay, his arm, that kind of a curving shape here. Very nice. So those are all the arabesques. Okay, that creates unity of movement as well. And the ellipses, those are pretty cool too. Let's see. This one, we've got that one we pointed out with the heads. So we've got kind of an ellipse here. And if you analyze master paintings, you'll definitely see these. It's definitely easier to do with painting because it can all be planned out. But Annie's definitely taken a lesson from the master painters, and you can see how everything's kind of lining up here. So the heads, the arm, his arm curling back around the heads here. And then we've got another one that unites all of them. If you see that, you don't see it until it's pointed out, but you can kind of feel it, right? You know something's pretty cool there. Okay. Alright. So let's take a look at those two. And then look at this bigger one. Let's see how it's kind of uniting here. It doesn't have to be perfect, especially if you're a photographer. I mean, she's doing a really, whoever's she's working for is doing an awesome job of planning this out, positioning everybody, posing them all, and so she can use the limbs and the heads to create unity and movement. So back to what is very cool is we'll put the Route 4 grid on there. And if you've seen the one, I'm going to link another article that I did. It's the second article I ever did on the website, but it's a free one. You can check out all the techniques she used and explanations, all that stuff. But I'll link that below, and you can check that out. But it's similar to this. It's a nice, really nice group photo, and she uses the grid and lots of techniques. So definitely check that out. But we can see she's using the Route 4 grid, and we can just mark this up here. So we can see the heads here, chin, the heads, the chin. Look at his arm here, her body. This is the polar point, the vertical going through the polar point. Polar point's just the 90-degree angle here. Okay, Look at her arm, paralleling this Baroque diagonal. This arm, see this one? Locking into that diagonal there. This is the reciprocal Baroque diagonal right here, so it's locking into that. And this is the root 4 MAD, the major area divisions. So you can see Oprah split right there at that vertical. So is her head. This arm is paralleling the Baroque diagonal. Okay, this guy's head right on that cross point here. And let's see, usually right down the center you'll see something too. So you can see the edge of his arm. What else do we got? Her head, her arm, and her dress. And look at this. This, if you follow this line, look at this, right at the edge of that dress. So pretty dang cool. So let me turn this on, and then we're gonna turn on that limbs layer again. And you'll see, look at this. This is cool. If you're doubting dynamic symmetry, or if you're still skeptical, I mean, look at this. All we're doing is looking at the limbs that they have in the image, and look at all of them paralleling this Baroque diagonal. This one's almost like, it's almost exact to this sinister diagonal. It's hard to be perfect with photos, especially when you're compositing all that stuff, but man, it's pretty impressive how close they're getting. Look at this one. So pretty impressive. And if you're a painter, photographer, whatever, and you're worried about getting things exact, okay, don't worry about that. I'm perfectionist. I do like to get it exact if I can, but it's all about perception. People are going to perceive. Let me show you an example. So if you put a diagonal here and you put a diagonal here, you know, they're going to look pretty similar, but if we line them up, maybe they're not so similar. See, they're slightly off, but we perceive them as the same diagonal. So the perception is that they're going to be the same, even though they're slightly off. It doesn't have to be perfect. I remember an artist saying, well, does it have to be exact? I mean, I don't understand what's going on with dynamic symmetry. I don't get it. But no, it doesn't have to be exact. You want to try and lock it in, but if you're slightly off, or if it's slightly off, it's not going to make a difference, because it's going to be perceived as being in that direction. Okay? Hope that gets the point across. Leave a comment below if you like this, and I'll continue to do more. All right? Thanks so much for the support. I really appreciate all your help, but I'll talk to you guys later.